wondered about the possibility of concentric shells within the Earth. Proponents of the theory suggest that there might be entrances at the poles or various hidden passages that lead to the interior world. Interestingly enough, in this interior world, it's said that extinct creatures like the dinosaurs actually live and thrive within the hollow Earth. However, this theory was more out there during the early days of geological inquiry, and nowadays it's more of a product of imaginative thinking and myth. Too big to walk. The too big to walk idea is about really huge dinosaurs, like Argentinosaurus, being so massive that they might have had trouble moving around easily. These dinosaurs were some of the biggest creatures ever, making scientists wonder how they walked around with such huge bodies. Some experts propose their size might have made it hard for them to move fast on land. Their idea is that these giants might have moved very slowly or found different ways to get around, like using water or other tricks to support their weight, meaning they'd be considered semi-aquatic animals. Although scientists are still learning how the animals move by studying their bones and muscles, this theory is generally considered a fringe theory, but it still remains a fascinating topic in paleontology, so there's not really much about it. Dinosaurs are dragons. During the early stages of saurian fossil discoveries, when paleontology was on its rise, the findings often shared a striking resemblance to the mythical creatures known as dragons. This led some to believe that the findings were mythical beasts from well-known folklore and legends due to their physical appearances. At that time, concepts such as geological time and the idea of extinction were not universally accepted or well understood. Neither was the term dinosaur even coined. Therefore, it does make sense that people would have jumped to conclusions and let their mind wander about the possibilities of the fossil's origin. Also, some believe that the origin of dragons in historical myths and legends might have actually been inspired by encounters or interactions with ancient reptilian creatures, such as dinosaurs, which were thought to have lived concurrently with humans. Nowadays, this idea still persists within specific creationist circles. Creationism. Creationism is a belief that asserts the universe, Earth, and all life forms were created by a divine being, typically in line with religious texts, such as the Bible's Genesis account in Christianity. It posits that a supernatural entity, often referred to as a god or higher power, deliberately designed and brought everything into existence. According to creationism, the origins of life and the diversity of living organisms are a result of a purposeful act by a creator, rather than through natural processes such as evolution by natural selection. Creationists argue for a literal interpretation of religious texts, advocating that the Earth and its life forms were created in a relatively short period, typically a few thousand years, as opposed to the vast timescales suggested by scientific evidence. De-evolution. De-evolution is a term that's sometimes used in discussions about evolution, but holds a different meaning than what one might expect. In scientific context, de-evolution is not a recognized or accepted concept within evolutionary biology. Evolution typically describes the process of species developing and changing over time to adapt to their environments or changing circumstances, which is referred to as natural selection. However, outside of scientific circles, de-evolution is occasionally used to suggest a backward or regressive evolution, implying that organisms might actually revert to a simpler or less advanced form. There's this thing out there called tech de-evolution, which was pretty interesting to learn about. This idea essentially contradicts the basic principles of evolutionary biology, which emphasize adaptation and the diversification of species over time. Therefore, it's generally considered to be based on a misunderstanding of how evolution actually works. Orthogenesis, chain of being. Orthogenesis, also known as straight-line evolution, was a hypothesis prevalent during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, suggesting that species have an inherent tendency to evolve in a predetermined direction. During the Victorian era, when Charles Darwin introduced the theory of evolution, it clashed with prevailing religious and societal views. Darwin's proposition that humans shared a common ancestry with other earthly creatures challenged the notion of humans as divinely ordained superior beings, so you can see how we would have gotten a lot of backlash for it. Proponents believed that evolutionary changes were guided by an internal force, or predetermined path within organisms, rather than solely driven by natural selection or environmental influences. Darwin himself was aware of the potential for his theory to be misconstrued as applying a linear progression toward human superiority. He famously described evolution not as a linear tree with humans at its apex, but rather as a radiating bush, emphasizing that humans are just one branch among many in the evolutionary process.
You've been, I touch it till it's settled. And I'm here Her style is unique. Her recipes are famous. What's this? A BLT with Kraft mayo? Wait a minute, we filmed the wrong person. This is not actually a chef.
Mythical beasts based on early fossil finds. The concept that ancient mythologies and folklore might have been influenced by early encounters with fossil remains has been suggested in various forms throughout history. This idea has gained traction in recent times, with some scholars proposing connections between ancient myths and actual fossil discoveries. One such example comes from Adrian Meyer, an archaeologist, who suggested that certain mythical creatures, like griffins, might have originated from encounters with Protoceratops skeletons. Meyer theorized that ancient peoples might have come across the skeletal remains of Protoceratops, a dinosaur with a beak-like structure, and incorporated them into their legends of griffins. However, while this idea has garnered attention and interest, it has faced criticism and skepticism from other scholars. Anthropologists like Langford and paleontologist Mark Whitten have raised serious concerns and identified flaws in Meyer's argument regarding the association between Protoceratops and griffins. Ica stones. The Ica stones are a set of andesite stones that were discovered in the Ica province of Peru in the 1960s by Basilio Uschuya. These stones are notable for allegedly bearing shallow engravings depicting scenes of ancient humans hunting and interacting with dinosaurs, as well as illustrations of advanced technology like telescopes and flying machines. Despite the initial fascination surrounding these stones, investigation and scrutiny have revealed them to be forgeries. Basilio Uschuya, the individual who claimed to have discovered and carved these stones, later admitted to creating them himself. The engravings on the stones, including depiction of dinosaurs coexisting with humans and technological advancements, were revealed to be modern fabrications rather than genuine ancient artifacts. Despite their proven inauthenticity, the Ica stones have persisted as a subject of interest for certain groups, notably among proponents of creationism and ancient astronaut theories. Advocates of these ideas have used the Ica stones as purported evidence of an advanced civilization that coexisted with dinosaurs, suggesting that these engravings validate their beliefs. Piltdown Man. The Piltdown Man refers to an infamous archaeological hoax that took place in the early 20th century. In 1912, fragments of a skull and jawbone were discovered in Piltdown, East Sussex, England, reportedly presenting a huge missing link between apes and humans. This find was hailed as a groundbreaking discovery, suggesting the existence of an ancient human ancestor with a large brain case and ape-like jaw. For several decades, the Piltdown Man was considered a crucial piece of evidence in the study of human evolution. However, in the 1950s, extensive scientific scrutiny revealed that the Piltdown Man was a forgery. Chemical analysis and detailed examinations exposed that the skull fragments were from a comparatively recent human skull, while the jaw mold belonged to an orangutan. These bones were deliberately stained and manipulated to appear ancient, fooling scientists and experts for many years. Chickenosaurus. Paleontologist Jack Horner has been spearheading a project aimed at genetically modifying chicken embryos to exhibit dinosaur-like traits by manipulating certain genes associated with dinosaur characteristics. It's kind of like Jurassic Park, but with a chicken. The idea stems from the evolutionary link between birds and dinosaurs, since birds are considered descendants of dinosaurs based on fossil evidence and shared characteristics. Horner's endeavor has attracted attention due to its ambitious goal of reverse engineering features of dinosaurs from modern bird embryos. Although there have been claims of limited success within this project, such as experiments resulting in chicken embryos exhibiting skull characteristics of certain dinosaur species, like the velociraptor, many within the paleontological community remain skeptical about the project's scientific merit and feasibility. Critics argue that even if Horner's experiments were successful in producing chicken embryos with altered features resembling certain aspects of dinosaurs, it wouldn't actually result in any resurrection of dinosaurs, so there probably won't be any chicken dinosaurs running around for a while. Neo-dinosaurs. In the context of cryptozoology, neo-dinosaurs refer to claims or belief that certain non-avian dinosaurs, presumed to be extinct for millions of years, might somehow still exist in remote or unexplored regions of the world. One such example is the case of Mokele Membe, a creature often cited in the folklore of Central Africa, particularly in the Congo region. Mokele Membe is described in local legends as a large, semi-aquatic creature resembling a sauropod dinosaur, with traits similar to those of prehistoric dinosaurs like the long-necked sauropods. Cryptozoologists and some explorers have hypothesized that Mokele Membe, if it exists, might represent a surviving population of dinosaurs, specifically sauropods, thought to have gone extinct millions of years ago. These claims are based on anecdotal accounts though, folklore, and alleged sightings by locals and explorers though, so they lack substantial scientific evidence. It's kind of like the Loch Ness Monster and Nessie, where there's a lot of accounts but there's no actual real evidence out there. Therefore, the existence of living non-avian dinosaurs such as Mokele Membe or other similar cryptids remains speculative. But just imagining something like that is actually out there though is terrifying considering the size of those things. Paluxy Tracks. The Paluxy River tracks refer to a set of alleged fossilized footprints found along the Paluxy River in Texas, USA. These tracks gained attention due to claims that they provided evidence of both humans and dinosaurs coexisting, seemingly contradicting the widely accepted understanding of the fossil record. Initially, some individuals suggested that certain prints within the trackway resembled human footprints alongside larger tracks presumed to be those of dinosaurs. This concept became a focal point for those advocating the idea of young earth creationism, which again proposes a literal interpretation of the Bible's account for creation. However, upon further examination and extensive scientific evidence, many of the tracks initially believed to be human footprints were reevaluated and determined to be misinterpretations or erosional features that resembled human-like shapes. Human self-domestication. Human self-domestication is a hypothesis proposing that humans, through social and evolutionary processes, have undergone self-directed selection similar to the domestication of animals. This idea suggests that over the course of human evolution, certain behavioral and physical traits emerged or were reinforced through societal pressures leading to changes that parallel those in domesticated animals. Basically, it suggests that as humans transitioned from hunter-gatherer societies to more settled agricultural communities, living together in larger groups became more advantageous. This meant that humans would have reduced their reactive aggression, increased cooperation, and changes in physical appearance for the overall benefit. Supporters of the self-domestication hypotheses point to evidence such as the reduction in cranial size, changes in skeletal features, and alterations in brain structures over the course of human evolution. They argue that these changes might be analogous to those observed in domesticated animals compared to their more wild ancestors. Cavemen coexisted with dinosaurs. The idea that cavemen coexisted with dinosaurs is a misconception or an inaccurate belief. According to established scientific evidence from paleontology, the existence of dinosaurs predates the appearance of modern humans by millions of years. Dinosaurs, which lived during the Mesozoic era, became extinct around 65 million years ago, long before the emergence of Homo sapiens. The term caveman generally refers to early humans, such as Neanderthals or other prehistoric human ancestors who lived during the Stone Age. These early human species evolved much later, appearing tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of years ago, which is still significantly after the extinction of dinosaurs. When you really think about the timeline of events, it's actually pretty scary knowing the gap between humans and dinosaurs is so large. Overall, claims suggesting that cavemen and dinosaurs coexisted are often propagated in popular culture for certain pseudoscientific ideas, but we definitely know it's a misconception. All vertebrates are fish. This idea, or more commonly known as like a joke, emphasizes that cladistically speaking, the traits defining a specific group are also present in all its descendants, technically naming them as fish. As vertebrates evolved from fish-like ancestors, they retained certain fundamental characteristics that trace back to their fish origins, even though they've evolved and diversified into distinct lineages with unique adaptations. But you can see how this categorization doesn't actually reflect the practical or everyday classification of animals. In scientific terms, while humans and other vertebrates share a common evolutionary lineage with fish, they've also undergone a bunch of evolutionary changes that differentiate them from their fish ancestors. Classifying humans or other vertebrates as fish just isn't that useful for understanding their biology, behavior, or ecological roles.
Since 1913, we've had one job, pioneering a motor oil so advanced, rideshare drivers can trust it to protect their engines for up to 500,000 miles, guaranteed. 5 stars for engine upkeep, Charlotte. Pennzoil, long may we drive.
Lemuria. Lemuria is a concept that emerged in the 19th century about a hypothetical lost continent. It was envisioned as a sunken landmass that might have existed in the Indian or Pacific Ocean and became associated with the origin of humanity. Ernest Haeckel, a prominent biologist and philosopher, suggested Lemuria as a possible ancient land where lemurs, considered among the closest relatives of humans at that time, might have originated. Some proponents of this concept, including certain occult groups, also developed narratives and mystical beliefs about Lemuria, linking it to human evolution from primordial forms to more complex beings. The belief in Lemurian origins has still persisted, particularly in West Tamil cultural histories, contributing to local folklore and narratives about a lost ancient land. If anyone is interested, there's also a great book out there called The Lost Land of Lemuria that more delves into the history and cultural significance of the Lemuria concept. I'll link it down if anyone's interested in actually learning about it. Baramins. Baramin is a term introduced by Frank Lewis Marsh, a Seventh-day Adventist biologist. In the context of creationism, specifically young earth creationism, a Baramin refers to the concept of created kinds. According to Marsh's belief, Baramins represent the original categories or types of organisms created by God. Within these Baramins, Marsh proposed that microevolutionary changes could occur, but insisted that they wouldn't lead to the emergence of entirely new species, meaning this would be completely different of what we know of evolution from Darwin. Advocates of the Baramin concept argue that each kind or Baramin represents a distinct group of organisms created by God and serves as the fundamental unit of biological diversity. The concept of Baramins is associated with the rejection of the broader concept of evolution and the idea of common descent. It suggests that while variation occurs within Baramins, the boundaries of these kinds are fixed and prevent one kind from evolving into another over long periods. Abiogenesis. Abiogenesis is a theory that proposes life came from non-living matter. It refers to the hypothetical phenomenon where simple organic molecules, under certain conditions on early Earth, gradually assembled and formed increasingly complex structures, eventually leading to the emergence of the first living organisms. This concept suggests that the transition from inanimate matter to living organisms occurred over an extended period through a series of chemical reactions and molecular interactions. Scientists hypothesize that the conditions on early Earth, such as a reducing atmosphere, energy sources like lightning, or geothermal activities, and the presence of certain organic compounds, might have facilitated the formation of complex organic molecules, such as amino acids and nucleotides. These building blocks of life, once formed, might have further combined and organized themselves into more complex structures, like proteins, RNA, and ultimately the first self-replicating entities, representing the earliest forms of life, and then coming to where we are today as humans. Prehistoric volcanism. In vintage paleontological illustrations, a prevalent theme depicted frequent and intense volcanic activity during prehistoric times. This artistic portrayal often featured erupting volcanoes as a prominent backdrop to ancient landscapes. The idea behind this trope was rooted in the perception that volcanic eruptions were more frequent and extreme in prehistory compared